The figure in black, breaking through the air, was a middle-aged man. A long scar stretched across his face, nearly dividing his entire head. It was clear that he had survived a deadly battle. His strength had reached the level of a 9th-grade supreme, but as his figure swept in front of Xiao Yin and the others, Xiao Yin immediately recognized the opening. The person before them was not his true body, but a supreme avatar. "So, you must be Xiao Yin, the one who wanted to see me?" The man in black darted in front of Xiao Yin and cupped his hands. "I am Wu Kei, one of the 3 main supervisors of this auction. I'm curious, what urgent matter do you wish to discuss?" Upon hearing Wu Kei's words, Xiao Yin and Lu Xian exchanged a glance. Neither of them knew why Xiao Yin wanted to meet the supervisor, but they quickly guessed his purpose. "Supervisor Wu Kei, I had a few questions I wanted to ask you regarding how to revive someone whose soul mark is all that remains," Xiao Yin said to Wu Quebec. Although he had already received some viable clues from Lu Xian and the others, he still decided to ask. Such a thing should only be possible for a heavenly alchemist-level pill master, right? Wu Kei responded. "No, the situation I'm asking about is even worse. It concerns a soul mark that has lost even its consciousness," Xiao Yin explained. "This?" Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Wu Kei was momentarily stunned. He quickly made a gesture and retrieved the 2 million supreme spiritual liquid Xiao Yin had previously given him, handing it back. "Sorry, but there is no information we can provide about such a matter." Though 2 million supreme spiritual liquid was equivalent to over 2 years' worth of income for Wu Kei, he dared not accept it after failing to help Xiao Yin. "Just as expected," Xiao Yin said, not surprised that Wu Kei couldn't offer useful information. In fact, he had already gained something from the conversation, having just learned the possibility of the Undying Lord's involvement. Xiao Yin did not take back the 2 million supreme spiritual liquid. Instead, he said, "Here's what I suggest. Keep the supreme spiritual liquid, but help me with something." "What is it?" This time, Wu Kei did not immediately agree. He first asked what Xiao Yin needed, suspecting that if it was related to reviving a soul mark with no consciousness, they wouldn't be able to assist. "I would like you to deliver a letter to a specific location," Xiao Yin said. "Where to?" Wu Kei needed to know where Xiao Yin wanted the letter delivered. If it was to a particularly dangerous place, they still wouldn't help. "To the land of 10,000 graves, to the Undying Lord," Xiao Yin answered. At hearing Xiao Yan's words, Wu Kei was shaken. Though the land of 10,000 graves was not a particularly dangerous place, it still caught him off guard. After all, it was one of the major super-alliances in the lower planes. However, Wu Kei's next response surprised Xiao Yin even further. "Sending a letter to the land of 10,000 graves wouldn't be difficult, but I don't think it's necessary," Wu Kei said, before flipping his hand. A red scroll appeared in the air. "This is a list of the VIPs we know about in this auction, along with some details. There are about 300 people," Wu Kei said, unfurling the red scroll and scanning the names listed. He then placed his finger on one name and said, much to Xiao Yan's surprise, "Li Yin, the outer steward of the land of 10,000 graves." Outer steward of the land of 10,000 graves? Wu Kei's words were unexpected, and Xiao Yin had not anticipated encountering someone from the land of 10,000 graves so soon after learning about the Undying Lord's potential aid. It truly felt like an unusual stroke of luck. Although the land of 10,000 graves has the fewest members among the major lower plane alliances, most of their members are fiercely independent. These members don't stay together like those of other alliances, but wander the great thousand worlds and lower planes. "So, it's normal for us to encounter them," Dan Ling Air added from the side. "When does the auction begin?" Xiao Yin asked Wu Kei. "The auction will start in half an hour. If you're not just here to inquire, you may also want to go and have a look. There, you should be able to meet the outer steward from the land of 10,000 graves," Wu Kei replied. He then handed the cosmic bag back to Xiao Yin. As he had not been able to help, he naturally wouldn't accept the 2 million supreme spiritual liquid. "Heh, Supervisor Wu Kei, you've actually provided me with some useful information. Consider these supreme spiritual liquids as my support for your auction," Xiao Yin said with a smile as he declined to take back the cosmic bag. After everything was settled, before Wu Kei could say anything, Xiao Yin had already moved, flying straight towards the central region of this dimensional world. Lu Xian and Dan Linger exchanged a glance, waved to Wu Kei, and then followed Xiao Yin, heading towards the central region as well. With Xiao Yin and Lu Xian leaving, the only one left in place was Wu Kei, who looked helplessly at the cosmic bag in his hand. He sighed and shook his head before moving his body and vanishing into the world. A few minutes later, about 10,000 miles away, a figure appeared from the distance, breaking through the air and slowly descending from midair. Xiao Yin gazed at the vast city before him. It was clearly the location where the auction would take place, and within this city, he could sense tens of thousands of auras. Most of these auras were at the 3 nadir level, with some weaker ones at the 3 heavens stage. Higher up, there were hundreds of supreme-level auras, indicating that these people were the distinguished guests from the 3 major cities, as Wu Kei had mentioned earlier. Following his gaze, Xiao Yin spotted a massive pavilion in the center of the city. The pavilion was about several thousand meters tall, and within this enormous structure, approximately 200 supreme-level auras had gathered. Upon sensing these auras, Xiao Yin was about to use his spiritual energy to scan the area, attempting to locate Li Yin of the land of 10,000 graves. With Xiao Yin's current strength, searching through the entire dimension would be easy. "Hey, you're running way too fast." Just as Xiao Yin was about to begin his search, a voice came from behind him. Looking back, Lu Xian and Dan Linger appeared, flying toward him. Dan Linger could have easily caught up with Xiao Yin, but she had been slowed down by Lu Xian. After Lu Xian and Dan Linger arrived, Xiao Yin slowly turned around. As he looked at the two, a wave of energy, one that only a perfected heavenly supreme could sense, radiated from Xiao Yan's body. It was the fluctuation of the heavenly soul. With the heavenly soul's perception, which merged with the world, Xiao Yin instantly saw the faces of everyone in the pavilion. Inside the spacious pavilion, there was an auction hall that could easily accommodate tens of thousands of people. At the front of the seats, there was a smooth white stone platform about 10 meters wide. The closer the seats were to this platform, the more prestigious they were. On the 6 highest level seats in the front row, Xiao Yin saw 6 figures, each of them possessing strength above the 8th grade supreme. These were clearly the most competitive participants in the auction. Li Yin was remembered by Steward Wu Kei, so it was highly likely that he was among these 6 individuals. After spotting these 6 figures, Xiao Yin eavesdropped on the conversation of others in the auction hall and ultimately locked onto one of them. It was a young man dressed in red, sitting in a position for middle-tier guests in the pavilion. He carried a black long sword on his back, and his face exuded an unyielding battle intent. The aura of battle surrounding him confirmed his identity as a battle formation master. This was Li Yin, the external elder of the land of 10,000 graves. 7-fold heaven seal, a perfect grade divine artifact, when fully activated, can suppress an 8th grade supreme. The starting bid is 1.5 million supreme spiritual liquid, 1.6 million, 1.8 million, 2 million, 2.5 million. As Xiao Yin entered the auction hall, the sound of intense bidding filled the air. As he walked in, a steward approached and was about to lead him to a VIP seat. This was clearly the arrangement made by Steward Wu Kei earlier. However, Xiao Yin rejected the steward's offer. He hadn't come to the auction to participate. There was nothing here that could catch his attention. His purpose was to find Li Yin. Since Li Yin was busy with the auction, Xiao Yin did not disturb him. Instead, he casually chose a seat and sat down, intending to avoid drawing attention. After Xiao Yin took his seat, 2 familiar figures walked up from behind and sat down not far from him. It was Lu Xian and Dan Linger. Seeing them sit so close, Xiao Yin didn't approach to greet them. He knew that Lu Xian and Dan Linger were probably here to attend the auction. 3.9 million once. 3.9 million twice. Xiao Yin looked ahead at a platform, where the host had just presented a top-tier divine artifact. Afterward, another item was pushed onto the platform. A gray transparent box, inside which lay a scroll. This is a scroll known as the Vast Ocean Divine Art, left behind by a 9th grade supreme who transcended. It is said that when this divine art is used, a divine sea will descend from the sky. The impact from such a force is enough to flatten a giant city spanning tens of thousands of miles. The starting bid is 2 million supreme spiritual liquid. After pushing the scroll forward, the host began his introduction. The vast ocean divine art? Quite a remarkable item. A relic of a 9th grade supreme? As the host finished speaking, the crowd below started to discuss, and soon, bidding began to escalate. 230,000. 250,000. 3 million. The bidding for the vast ocean divine art continued for several minutes, with bids increasing almost every few seconds. The original starting price of 2 million supreme spiritual liquid was soon doubled, reaching over 5 million. Clearly, many people were interested in this divine art. However, once the price exceeded 5 million, the atmosphere in the auction hall quieted. It was evident that at this price, further bidding might lead to losses. 6 million. Just as the final price seemed to be set at over 5 million supreme spiritual liquid, a voice broke the silence. It came from a young man sitting in the front row VIP section. From the information Xiao had gathered earlier, he knew this young man was from a faction called the Ancient Heaven Sect. In the Xuanfu domain, the Ancient Heaven Sect barely qualified as a top-tier faction, but in the broader 10,000 pill continent, it was only considered second-rate. The young man was the heir to the sect's next leader. It seems like the young master of the Ancient Heaven Sect is quite interested in this vast ocean divine art, said a voice from nearby, belonging to a woman whose status in the Xuanfu domain was not inferior to that of the young man. Interested? Aren't we all just bidding? The highest bidder gets it, that's the rule, the young man replied with a faint smile. The highest bidder gets it, you say? Upon hearing this, the woman's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly as she turned her gaze toward the auction platform. 650,000. Oh? Is your Azure Pill sect also planning to fight for this? The young master of the Ancient Heaven sect was slightly surprised by the woman's bid. With the cultivation direction of your Azure Pill sect over the past few hundred years, this vast ocean divine art doesn't seem to align with your sect's practices. A guest has arrived in the sect, and one must always offer something to entertain a guest, right? The woman from the Azure Pill sect replied. A guest? So, the rumors are true? Someone from a lower dimension has broken free from their constraints and arrived at your Azure Pill sect. The young master of the Ancient Heaven sect was mildly surprised, his expression growing more serious. As soon as the young master's words were spoken, the auction hall erupted in murmurs. Everyone knew that those who could break free from the constraints of a lower dimension and arrive in the Great Thousand Worlds were typically exceptionally talented individuals. In such a restrictive environment, they could achieve remarkable success. Once they entered the expansive stage of the Great Thousand Worlds, they would undoubtedly shine even brighter. Some of these rare talents could even reach the level of Earth Supreme or higher. For the top-tier factions in the Great Thousand Worlds, these breakthroughs from lower dimensions might not be crucial, but for those factions with only Supreme-level experts, such individuals were considered treasures. If a second-rate faction could nurture such a person, they could potentially rise to the level of a first-rate faction in the future. The fact that the Azure Pill sect had taken in someone who had broken through from a lower dimension meant that they were very likely to surpass the Ancient Heaven sect, which explained why the young master of the Ancient Heaven sect was now so concerned. Since this item is intended for the breakthrough expert from the lower dimension, I, the Ancient Heaven sect, will do you a favor and let your Azure Pill sect have it, the young master of the Ancient Heaven sect finally conceded, stepping back from the bidding. Then I will take note of the favor from the young master of the Ancient Heaven sect for the Qingdan sect. The favor from the young master of the Ancient Heaven sect was, of course, accepted by the woman from the Qingdan sect. However, she couldn't help but admire the young master's approach. First, he made a concession during the bidding process, which showed that the Ancient Heaven sect didn't want to offend the Qingdan sect. Then, he offered this concession as a favor, a move that was both precise and well calculated. By doing so, even if the Qingdan sect grew stronger in the future, they couldn't easily suppress the Ancient Heaven sect, a power that had once given them a favor. Otherwise, it would appear as betrayal in the eyes of the outside world. Xiao observed the entire bidding process and the exchange of favors between the Ancient Heaven sect and the Qingdan sect. He smiled to himself, recalling how he had been kindly received by the Lu Xian sect when he first arrived in the Great Thousand World. It seemed that those who broke through the constraints of the lower realms and arrived in the Great Thousand World were highly regarded by these relatively lower-tier forces. Although there was an underlying intention to use them for growth, at least they wouldn't be looked down upon. However, such treatment was only found in second-tier or lower forces. Once these constraint breakers entered the ranks of first-tier powers, such as the 4 divine clans of the Western Heaven Realm, their treatment would likely become much more ordinary. If they were helped, it would simply be because the other party had humbled themselves. As for the super divine clans like the Icefire Spirit Clan, the Primordial Divine Clan, or the 10,000 Spirits Clan, those constraint breakers would likely be ignored entirely, a reality Xiao Yin understood well. For this reason, Xiao Yin had never forgotten the help he had received from the elder Luo Tian of the Luo God Clan when he first arrived in the Great Thousand World. Even though Xiao Yan's strength had long surpassed that of Luo Tian, he vowed that if the opportunity arose, he would repay this kindness. As Xiao Yin recalled these events, the auction of the vast ocean divine art came to an end, and another item was brought up. It was an ancient, damaged piece of parchment, and as soon as it was presented, Xiao Yin noticed that both Lu Xian and Dan Ling Er suddenly became alert. They seemed extremely interested in this item. However, their reaction wasn't shared by the other attendees. It seemed that the secrets on this damaged ancient parchment were known only to Lu Xian and her companions, and they had likely come here specifically for this piece of parchment. This is a piece of a map excavated from an ancient ruin. According to the appraiser's analysis, it might be a fragment from a certain alchemical manuscript. However, we cannot determine which manuscript this is from, nor can we ascertain its original source. What we do know is that unlocking the seal on this fragment required the combined efforts of 3 8th grade Supremes, and it took nearly 2 days. The seal was temporarily lifted for less than a minute, but in that short time, we were able to briefly glimpse the contents. There were only 2 words. The auctioneer began to explain as he introduced the ancient parchment. His next words caused a stir among everyone present. Heavenly pill. When the auctioneer spoke these 2 words, everyone who had previously shown little interest in the damaged parchment suddenly became alert. What was the heavenly pill? It was a super pill that could only be refined by a heavenly alchemist. Although this fragment is only a small portion of the refining method for the heavenly pill, its value is immense. Therefore, we have set the starting bid at 3 million supreme spiritual liquid. As the auctioneer finished speaking, the atmosphere, once filled with surprise, turned into a deep silence. This silence lasted for several tens of breaths, making the auctioneer feel quite awkward. The silence in the room was clearly due to the fact that the item, which had taken 3 8th grade Supremes and 2 days to open, was certainly of great value. Everyone understood the immense worth of the heavenly pill refining method. However, this was just a fragment, and from the outside, it didn't even cover 1/5 of the original page. Furthermore, refining the heavenly pill required a heavenly alchemist, making this fragment more of a collectible than a useful item. For most bidders, this fragment had more of a collectible value than an applicable one. If it were for practical use, 3 million supreme spiritual liquid wouldn't be too much. But as a collectible, 3 million was a bit excessive. Seeing the silence in the room, the embarrassed auctioneer had to wait for the bids to come in. However, just as the host was preparing to summon the staff to push this fragment off the stage and bring up the next auction item, a voice suddenly rang out from the audience, causing everyone to pause in surprise. 3 million supreme spiritual liquid. I'll take this heavenly pill fragment.